Another exclusive live session with the Hype Magazine.
You need to stop what you're doing. Pay attention.
World famous Hype Magazine. Going down right now.
Hey, what's good, everybody, and welcome to another live session with the Hype Magazine. Today, we have Texas State House of Representatives incumbent, Miss Laura Thompson. She made history in the fact that she is the first independent to hold the position since, 1958, so over 50 years. And she's now a member of the 84th legislature. Welcome and thank you for being with us.
All right, thank you for having me. Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. So, born and raised in San Antonio, let's talk about, growing from a mother, entrepreneur, freelance writer, a publisher. I mean, you've worn so many hats and impacted so many things. Talk to us about your growth and your journey now to the Texas State Legislature.
Oh, okay. Well, as you mentioned, I'm born and raised in San Antonio in Denver Heights. I grew up, I was born in Wheatley Courts, which is one of the projects in San Antonio. I stayed there until I was 2. My parents bought some property and built a home not far from there, what we call Denver Heights. And so I wasn't your ordinary child. I was always trying to do something different or something creative or whatever my mind could imagine. I would try it. And so, my dad kind of guided me, because he knew he really couldn't contain me. And so he guided me and helped me to kind of stay within in boundaries and learn to respect people and learn to respect authority, which I often kind of went out of bounds because I had the entrepreneurial spirit, and I always wanted to serve people and help people and do things to benefit others. And that practice, never left me. I think it might be one of God's purposes for me because I've never strayed away from it. To this day, I'm always thinking of ideas of how to improve things or how to help people to move to the next level. And so becoming a state representative is just another level up, and it gives me an opportunity to really help people and shape the laws that benefit the constituents in District 120 and in the state of Texas. And so I'm just excited about it. We've hit the ground running, serving constituents, going to events, speaking at events, and actually I serve on the Transportation and Appropriations Committee. And so, we've already hit the ground running on some of those meetings and planning for our appropriations meeting is coming up next week. This week, too. We're going to talk about contracting opportunities this week, and then next week we're going to talk about funding public education. And education is a top priority of mine, and so I'm just really excited to be able to be in the decision-making capacity to help improve education for our kids.
Okay. Let's talk about the process a little bit. People say, we need to be in the office and we need to do this and we need to do that. Let's talk about the process of getting to where you are now within the system.
In terms of the process of getting to this position, in terms of running or just some of the things that I've done?
No, the process about becoming an elected official.
Oh, okay. Well, I decided to run. As a matter of fact, I wanted to be a state rep for a long time. Didn't really know what a state rep did. I just thought it was cool, I think. And so when I decided to run, I told my mother. My dad is deceased, but I told my mother. And I told a couple of friends. I made an announcement on Facebook. And so a friend of mine inboxed me and said, I prayed that you're running as an independent. At that time, I'd heard of an independent, but I really didn't know, what the process was to run as an independent. So I did a lot of research, and I called the legal department with the Secretary of State's office almost every day just to make sure that I understood what I needed to do in order to become an independent. And so I had to file as early as October to declare that I was going to be running as an independent. So my primary goal for running as an independent was to get on the November 8th ballot for the general election. And after I filed, the former state representative, Representative Ruth Jones McClendon, who had served for almost 20 years, decided that she abruptly resigned in January of this year. And so that meant that there was a special election that was going to be called, and I participated in that. There were 4 contestants, including myself, and I came in first. And so I didn't have enough to win it outright, so we went into a runoff in August. And so I was able to clinch that seat and made a little bit of history. And I didn't even know that I was making history through this whole process. I thought that it was normal for an independent to be on the ballot and to win. I did not know that there were no independents in the House at the time. But in order to the next step was to get on the ballot. But there was a primary Democratic Party primary runoff after the first special election. And so I had to wait until that runoff was over before I could get petition signed. And so I had to have a petition of 500 validated signatures in order to get on the ballot. And so we were able to get 616 signatures, and the deadline to turn those in was June 23rd. And so we met the deadline. We filed to be on the ballot. And then we had to go back and forth with the Secretary of State's office, Elections Division here in Texas, to get those signatures validated. And we finally did. And we finally got certified, I think, last week to get on the ballot. And so that's caused a big shakeup on the other end, because my opponent had been saying that she was the state representative because she was unopposed. So I kind of blindsided the Democratic Party, and I was able to get on the ballot. And so they're a little bit upset about it right now, but they'll get over it. They're trying to get me back off the ballot now. But, we'll see how that works out.
They're trying to get you off the ballot.
Yes, they're trying to get me off.
But you've already been sworn in. So.
Well, no. I'm sitting in the seat right now. I'm still in the unexpired term of the former state representative right now.
Okay.
But I'm also on the November ballot. I won that battle. So I'm on the November ballot. But they don't want me on the November ballot. The Democrats want me on the November ballot. So they're trying to get me pushed off. But, we'll see what happens.
You're sitting in the seat already.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want you to stay there.
No.
Of course.
No.
They
just want me here for the special election. I mean, for the special interim term. And they weren't. They didn't see me coming because they thought that they had it all in the bag. So they were promoting themselves like that. But we'll see. We'll see what the next story brings.
That's a there's I call it legal fluffery. The trickeration within inside the system to keep us, and maybe not us as black people, but us as poorer people, less advantaged people, out of the system to work from within the system. There's a fear there. I think one of the most interesting T-shirts I've seen in my 53 years on the face of the earth was one that said, "Danger, educated black man." And then there was a "Danger, educated black woman" T-shirt as well. And for us to work from the inside out, is definitely a problem. So I have to ask you, as a legal representative, though, congratulations on your win. Thank you so much for doing that at the National Cemetery. I'm an Army veteran myself.
Are you?
And, yes, ma'am, I really appreciate it. And I see that you have a long history of association through your family with the military. And it makes it really special. Fort Sam Houston is a great place. But as a lawmaker now, sitting lawmaker now, I would be remiss in my duty without asking you, what is the conversation inside the halls of justice about how our young people, how black people are being treated by the police, and why is there no accountability, and what can really be done to change this climate?
Well, I think some changes can be done. Number one, the protest is good, and I think it should continue. And protest is important. We got to keep pushing the needle on the outside, but we also have to learn to work with lawmakers and legislators on the inside. And so that was a recent incident where a young lady, and she was the daughter of a lady that I know, and another young lady, which was her daughter's friend, were in a Whataburger eating. There was an altercation outside, and that's why the police were initially called, but they went inside and I guess asked or demanded or ordered that these young ladies leave, and they were still eating, and they were supposedly told by the proprietors that they could stay and finish eating. But one of the officers knocked her hat off her head, shoved her food on the floor, threw her purse on the floor, and it was all captured on video, and whispered something in her ear that, she was messing with the wrong bee. And when they cuffed her, she was holding her hands up behind her back and then telling her to be quiet and stop screaming. And so my first visit to one of my meetings, I had a transportation meeting. There was a gentleman who came up to me, and he's the chair of law enforcement, Texas State Law Enforcement. And so I tried to reach out to the family, and they were initially responding. Then they found an attorney, and now they're afraid to talk to people. But what I was telling them, I'm not an attorney, but I would like to use this as a case study, and take a look at the law and see what it actually says about, what police officers actually have the right to do, and see if it matches what they're doing. And if it's not, they could be part of a case study to start changing those laws. Because if there's a law that requires them to take some disciplinary action that they're not taking, we can look at that and use, because it was a small town, Converse, Texas, which is in my district. And so, we could start looking at those laws and seeing if they match the behavior of the police officers. And that's how we can start making a difference, by looking at the law and enforcing those laws, and also bringing in the justice system, federal, the Department of Justice, to look at some of these cases and start enforcing, making those police forces accountable. And then if the law is not there, we need to get, task force, not only in Texas and not only in my district, but across the country, to go in and start looking at those laws. And because a citizen can write legislation, and they can, the state reps can co-author it, or they can author it and the citizen can co-author it. So there's some things that we can do, but we've got to do it. We got to change the law if it's not there, and we've got to get the law enforced if it's there. But if we don't know the law, we're going to just keep. And the protesting is good. I think it should continue, but we need to have protesting and enforcement and looking at the law, to make sure that these police departments are accountable. Huh?
That's the big thing is the accountability. Like with Mr. Crutcher the other day, this guy's got his hands up, and he gets capped. But prior to him being killed, there's a police officer in the helicopter overhead who makes the comment, "He looks like a bad dude." But really, all it was his vehicle stalled in the middle of the freaking road.
It's the perception. It's just like I met with representatives from the San Antonio Independent School District. So we talked about a lot of different things, and one of the things that I want to do is incorporate conduct and behavior courses as part of the curriculum, starting early, when kids are in elementary school, because sometimes they come out of environments where there's no structure. And when they behave a certain way, that's just the way they normally behave. They don't know any better, when they first started out. And so this guy was, I don't know if he's Hispanic. He wasn't Hispanic. His name is Seth something. I don't know what his nationality was, but he was saying that he noticed that African American boys in particular get in trouble, and suspended for the least little thing, opposed to Hispanic and white boys. And so, I told him that was perception. And he said, no, it's not. I said, yes, it is. I said, in order to change that, and keep that from happening, we have to train the teachers to look at, our boys different. And we've got to train people to look at them different. And then, it's a societal thing. It's not just in the school system. It's in the medical healthcare system. It's in the justice system. It's all of that. So until we start doing some things to change the perception, even if we change the law, those incidences will still take place until we start, convicting, some of these criminals that are in uniform.
Right. You were talking about educating and kind of programming. Programming is my word. Our youth on behavioral, conduct and things like that. Do you feel, as an around-the-corner thinker, do you feel that there would be a danger of us training our people, our youth, to be more submissive and accepting of mistreatment in order to hope to survive? Are we teaching them survival tactics? Are we going back to Jim Crow? What's the danger there?
No, it's not teaching. I don't look at it as teaching. There's order and everything, and there are rules set up for everybody. But I just think in terms of good conduct in the classroom. Just how to function in a classroom. They don't really talk to kids about conduct or behavior. They focus more on academics, and they don't focus on, okay, if you want a job, these are the kinds of, this is the way you fill out an application. That's
soft skills.
Yeah, and it's life skills, like just how to conduct yourself, not brainwashing them, not making them be submissive, but just to keep order, in class. You don't talk in class, or either you abide by the rules of that particular teacher. Some are more flexible. Like if I'm a teacher, I'm going to have it where they can have conversations, and it's normal, and where they can, commingle and communicate with each other, as long as it's orderly.
So it's real, the common sense stuff and things that we were taught as youths, you know, so social, checking out the social indicators and social signals, you know, as far as getting along and interpersonal communications skills and exploring options other than violence or ignorance. I call it ignorance when you just act out.
And that's not a bad thing. It's just if you don't know, you just don't know.
I think babies raising babies is a problem, you know, because each successive generation loses more and more of the discipline and foundational skills that we received from our grandparents and our great-grandparents, you know.
And then we have to accept that it's a different time, and we have to use a different approach to help them. We can't just throw them away, you know. We can't.
Right.
You know, I beg to differ on some of the things. Well, you know, we got beat when we were kids, and you know, I didn't agree with that then, and I don't now. You know, as a last resort, maybe, but you know, I think that you know, abuse compounds abuse. You know, the ones that got beat, they beat their kids more. Now they're to a point where some parents are killing their kids because they've been so abused. You know, and we don't call it physical abuse, but it is. If somebody, you know, punched us or beat us every time we made a mistake, all of us would be walking around all bruised up. And so,
and angry.
You know, and so it's one form. It's one form of discipline, but I don't necessarily completely agree with something like that being done on an ongoing basis.
I think it's a last resort. It's an attention getter. Okay, I've talked to you, and I've talked to you, and I've tried to explain, and you know, now I'm going to pop you on your butt and make you stay and go, what the heck just happened? And I'm going to explain to you now that I have your attention fully. You know what I mean? You know, this is not a pleasant thing for me. Hurting you is not pleasant. But it's better for me to get you now than for you to be walking down the street and get shot because you said something stupid or laughed at a police officer or looked them in the eye. And, you know, just it's better now than having to deal with the justice system and visiting our children in prisons for some concocted or over them getting over sentenced for something minor. You know what I mean? So I believe that getting their attention, corporal punishment in the home is a tool that should be employed when necessary, but it's not the first thing in your toolbox.
Well, not when you're angry, because they may
definitely not when you're angry, because it's personal then.
That's why the abuse comes in.
Okay.
But you know, it's kind of, it's like they talk about generational curses. That, you know, that kind of discipline, I think, you know, it's because you don't know how the child is dealing with that, and how you don't really know, you know, the effects of it almost until they become an adult and it starts to come out. So, but I mean, we're getting, you know, way off track on it, but I think that it has a lot to do with it, you know, and a lot of parents and teachers threaten kids with the police, and I'm going to call the police, and so it's two-sided. You know, we've got to do something on both sides, and it's going to take a long time because it's compounded stuff that we believe, what we believe is right, you know, and you know what we've been getting away with. So,
what's been the most satisfying part for you thus far, though, in your political career? I know that you impacted a lot of lives, you know, through your nonprofit organizations, and you've been rocking children's literacy, which is, you know, I'm a very big fan of the Literacy Project. But since you've taken your seat in the House or in the state legislature, what's been the most satisfying thing for you about the political climate?
You know, going to different events or being invited to different places. Like I'm going to tour Coca-Cola. And so they invited us for a tour for a reason. But, you know, they're sitting right in the heart of the inner city on the east side of San Antonio, which is in District 120. And so it's an opportunity for me to talk to them about, you know, job opportunities for jobs for people that live in the area. And so, you know, all of it, every time I go out somewhere, there's an opportunity that pops up, or I'll intentionally go in after I find out, you know, what they're inviting me for, to help people with jobs, to help them get out more in the community and do more things in the community. So that's really what excites me is, you know, I don't have to go and bang on doors anymore. People are calling, you know, to invite me in, and I can do the same work that I've been doing, but I can get better results. You know,
now they want to talk to you.
Yes. And so I don't have to bang on their door anymore. You know, they're banging on our door. And sitting at our feet now.
It's funny because that corresponds to a rap song. You know, back then they didn't want me. Now I'm hot. Right. They all on me.
Right. You know, so it's I mean, it's rewarding. You know, I can look back on things that I've done and really say, wow, I was being prepared for this a long time ago. And I didn't even realize it. But I would have friends that say, you're just everywhere doing everything. Are you going to try to run for some political office? And at the time, I was like, no, I just like to do it. And I had a boyfriend that was a promoter, and he would say, why don't you get a job? And he said, you need to work. Why don't you get a job doing some of these things you like to do? I said, because they won't let me do them the way I want to do them. That's why. So
you become a serial entrepreneur, you know, a PR executive, freelance writer, publisher. I mean, you're an amazing example, you know, for our kids. And definitely I want my daughter to see your face, you know, at these rallies, giving these important speeches and helping to make a difference. I need her to see you and more like you in positions of power, working from the inside. You know, we don't have to be rappers. We don't have to be producers. We don't have to be actors. You know, we can be the thinkers and, you know, the cerebral type of people who make change. So I'm really proud for you, and I'm wishing you the best results in November. And hopefully, if you get it, we got to talk again. We have to talk again. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I want to know the story and how it worked out, is all the machinations that went behind the smoky room politics on trying to get you out and yet you prevail once again. You know, I think that'll be an exciting follow-up story. And we'd love to talk to you again. Is there anything that you wanted to cover that I may have neglected at this point?
Oh, no. I have a lot of people that they said that they're inspired, you know, by my winning. By my getting on the ballot, because people literally laughed at me when I said I was running as an independent, only because they didn't understand, you know, how it worked. But now I'm having people, you know, come to me from as far back as elementary school. We voted for you. We told everybody to vote for you. So it's and I've always been a trailblazer. I've always done things that people would laugh and say, you can't do that. We don't have enough black people here to do that, or we don't have enough this or that. And the other thing that, you know, when you talk about young people, traditionally we were taught, you know, be a teacher, just do one thing. And so I've never been that person that I didn't like just doing one thing. And so, you know, I tell, you know, adults and young people, you know, that it's okay to do more than one thing. That's what God gave some people one talent, and he may have given you 10. So, you know, just try try new things. If you can think it, you can dream it, you can do it. So
I love that.
Everything that existed there is because somebody had an idea and they acted on it. So we can do that too.
Here's a layperson's question. What is the official title for a state representative? Are you guys called Your Honor as well, like everybody else, or what?
Yeah, they'll say honorable, but it's Texas House State Representative.
Texas House State Representative, okay.
Mm-hmm. But people call me Rep Thompson, State Representative Thompson, and then we have state senators.
I like the Honorable Laura Thompson. I love that because it speaks volumes. You're honorable, and I think we're gonna go with that. I'm gonna say we have been on the line. This is the Hype Magazine live session with the Honorable Laura Thompson. She is Texas State Representative out of District 120, San Antonio. She's heavy on the education. She's aware. She's an around-the-corner thinker. And her talk-to-do ratio seems to me to be at 0. She's all about the action, and I love it. How can we keep up with you? What's your social media website for our Texas people? How do they reach you at your office?
So you can call me. Our office number is 210-225-2107. That's 210-225-2107. I'm on the Texas House website. And so you can just click on a link with my name on it, and it takes you to who I am, what committees I serve on, some of the things that I've done in the past, and then I'll start filling it up with things I'm doing right now.
There you go.
I'm running for re-election, so you can go to www.votelaurathompson.com. That's www.votelaurathompson.com. I have a Facebook page that's Laura Thompson, which is my personal page. And I also have a Vote Laura Thompson for District 120 State Rep as well. And it's filled with information. I give daily updates on Facebook Live to tell people, what my days look like and how it affects the constituents in District 120.
Man, I'm loving it. It's such an honor to have spoken with you, to have met with you via the phone. I am definitely looking forward to our follow-up conversation. I'm feeling positive that you will, as the incumbent, still be there despite all the activities against you. As my grandfather would say, the devil is a lie, and it's going to go down. You know what I mean? We appreciate you. All right, Hype Magazine live sessions, State Representative, Texas House of Representatives member, the Honorable Laura Thompson.
Oh, thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
All right, you too. And tell your daughter hello.
I shall do that. Thank you so kindly. Have a great day.
All righty. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.